So everyone, hello, just a little bit of housekeeping to get us kicked off today. So as I say, my name's Jem. I'm going to be your host today for this webinar. Today's session is going to be recorded. So if anyone needs to dip off early or anything like that, then not to worry. We will make sure that you will get a recording sent to you afterwards. So not to worry from that standpoint. Please go ahead and use the Q&A box for any specific kind of questions. So if you've got anything, specific that you want to chat to us about, then go ahead and use the Q&A box. We like to keep the chat for any kind of general discussion points that you might have. So you can go ahead and use that if you have any questions there. And as I say, we've got Natalie in our chat box today, so she'll be there to answer any of your questions as we go along as well. We will have some polls that we'll be doing today, so if you don't mind engaging with us in those polls, that'd be brilliant. That'd be great for us. It just lets us know if you want us to follow up with you about anything that we discussed today as well. And we'll be sending over a follow-up email as well, so just keep an eye on your inbox for that. And like I say, we'll have those session recordings in there as well. So a little bit about FreeAgent just to kick us off. I mean, I assume if you're here, then you probably know a little bit about FreeAgent already. But just as a little reminder, FreeAgent is award-winning cloud accounting software. So we really pride ourselves on being a user-friendly software. For those small business clients, we're a really great option for those. We don't have a lot of kind of jargon. We're not complicated to use. We have an excellent support team and a high-touch account management process as well. So if you are someone who already uses FreeAgent, then you can go ahead and let everyone in the chat box know your favorite thing about us. But we have a really great relationship with our accounting and bookkeeper clients. So if you have heard of us already, then you'll probably know that we've got a really great relationship there. And like I say, really easy to use. If you are looking for a HMRC recognised software and you bank with NatWest, then we're a great option. We are able to offer free licenses to anyone who banks with NatWest, Royal Bank of Scotland or Ulster Bank, as well as Metal, their online challenger bank. So on to introductions. So like I say, this is me, I'm Jem. I've got blonde hair in that photo, which I do not have now. But I'm Jem. I am the practice partnerships consultant here at FreeAgent, and I'll just be leading us through our webinar today, hosting our great guests that we've got along for you. So first of all, we've got Peter joining us. Peter, if you want to chuck on your camera and say hello.
Hello, I'm Peter Ellington. I run Triple Bottom Line Accounting. I'm also an academic at the University of East Anglia, but I'm packing that in because the practice is growing so fast that I don't have time to do all that academic work. I'm also a council member at the Association of International Accountants, and Triple Bottom Line Accounting is 14 people, and we do ESG measurement, carbon accounting, and all the things you'd expect of an accountancy practice.
Amazing, thank you so much. And we are also joined by Gavin today. Gavin, if you want to turn your camera on and say hello to us.
Hello there, hi. I'm Gavin Spencer. We're beach accountants. We're based up near Newcastle. Similar to Peter, we've got a staffing around about 12, but about to increase that to 16 in the next month. We're up for a national award for sustainability through the practice. We do a lot of getting our hands dirty by having a piece of land and doing some sustainability on that. And we also run that within the practice. I think it becomes a bigger part of you the more you do, and I think that's what I love about sustainability, is that once you start getting into it, you want to be fed more and more with the information, and within the whole team, our sustainability offerings through advisory has expanded somewhat. Along with all of the other parts, I am on the board of the ACCA, and therefore encourage them to be as sustainable as possible, of which most of their trade stands and things are recyclable. So it really is quite proud to be part of them.
I love that. Thank you so much. It is so funny because when we were looking for guests for this webinar, and I know that I met with both of you before like a few weeks ago, and you have such different backgrounds, which I'm excited to hear a little bit about and let everyone know how you came to be so involved with sustainability. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to kick off with a quick poll before we get into our panel discussion. Let me just bring that up. Here we go. Cool. So I'm just going to launch our first poll. So if you'll see the poll that's coming up on your screen just now, it's just about whether you'd like to find out more about becoming an accountant or bookkeeper who is a free agent partner. If you want to go ahead and reply there, that would be great. I'll just let it run for a minute or two and then we'll get started with our panel discussion. And if you're already a partner of ours, you can go ahead and say the bottom option is I'm already a free agent partner and would love to hear from my account manager. Like I say, we really value ourselves on that high touch account management process. So it's a good excuse to get a phone call from your account manager if you've not had one in a wee while. I'll just let that poll run for another few seconds. Okay, cool. Looks like the numbers are just stopping there. Perfect. Great. So let me just bring this up. So moving on to our panel discussion, I'm going to go ahead and just stop sharing now. So I would love to hear from both of you a little bit more about your backgrounds and that kind of thing. But Peter, I wonder if you could just kick us off by just telling us a little bit more about what carbon accounting is and what you mean by that when you're talking about it in practice.
Well, okay, I predict that all businesses will be doing carbon accounting in sometime in the future, 5 to 10 years time. So what is it? So it's the measurement of greenhouse gas emissions. Sometimes you see the term CO2e, which is carbon dioxide equivalent. And for example, carbon dioxide is emitted through burning fossil fuels. And we're all very aware now. I think there's not many people that aren't aware that it's scientists believe, and I think it's pretty much understood that that's causing a greenhouse gas effect, which is changing weather in our climate, and we've got this thing called global warming. So it's greenhouse gas equivalents because different greenhouse gases have a different effect. For example, a methane has a 25 times effect compared to carbon, but it only lasts for 100 years, but its effect is 25 times more than carbon. So I've read recently that we actually don't have a carbon crisis, we have actually a methane crisis. And methane comes from cattle belching, but in a lot of processes. So as we extract gas and oil, we release methane. So when we're measuring greenhouse gases, there are 3 scopes: scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And to measure scope 1, you actually look at how much fossil fuels are burnt. So for example, if you've got a gas burner on your premises, you measure how much gas you burn, and you're able to calculate the amount of carbon you burnt just by taking the gas you burnt multiplied by the amount of carbon that emits. Okay, so that's scope 1. Okay, so you're looking to work out how much carbon you're releasing into the atmosphere. Scope 2 emissions are where you use energy, but somebody else is burning it. So if you're using electricity, which you're taking from someone else, and they're burning coal to get it, then that's going to be high use of carbon, but that's called scope 2. Now, scope 3, which is very contentious, has been contentious in America more so than here and in Europe, is carbon that is as a result of your upstream, of how your process is to sell to your clients, deliver to them, and downstream when you're buying things. And whereas scope 1 and scope 2, you measure the amount of gas that's being burned, or you get the information from your energy supplier to work out your carbon. Okay, with scope 2 and 3, with scope 3, it's done by doing spend estimators. Okay, so scope 1 and 2 relatively easy to measure, and you do a measurement based on the carbon that's going out. Scope 3 is a spend estimation based on usually your accounting system. And what we're seeing is a lot of organizations that have created spend estimators and carbon accounting measurement tools. And there is actually a thing called the association called the Carbon Accounting Alliance. And that was formed in October. And it's made up of 317 organizations now. And they are leading the way on carbon accounting. And you wouldn't believe it, but there is only a very few accountants in that body. Triple bottom line accounting is one of them, and there are a few others. But effectively, accounting is not being done by accountants. And carbon is really just another currency. You know, we're used to dealing with in sterling. It's similar to like doing all your accounting for your client in euros. So we're actually accounting for carbon gas emissions. It's a little bit different for accountants because there's a lot of estimations going on. But we've looked at, say, measuring our carbon at triple bottom line accounting. And, you know, it's not different estimators come out with slightly different figures, but they're all in the same ballpark. Yeah. Accountants should be involved in it because what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years' time, or even earlier than that, your clients are going to be required to do carbon accounting. Now, this is coming from the IFRS and the International Sustainability Standards Board, who've released S1 and S2 last year. Most accountants are aware of that. S2 is about carbon accounting, and it requires all large companies to produce carbon accounting. So, for example, at this large size, 500. But the issue is, because of scope 3s, small companies supply to those organizations. And so small companies will have to do their carbon accounting, but the larger accountants will only trade with you if you know your carbon and can tell them what your carbon outputs are. For example, the NHS purchasing policy from the 1st of April is that all new suppliers have to do carbon measurement or you can't supply to the NHS. So that's a good example of how it's going to change and how it's going to affect everybody. So that's my introduction on carbon accounting.
That absolutely makes sense. Thank you for that. I suppose as well, I was talking about this earlier to someone just today, and accountants have the best skill set to be performing this kind of carbon accounting task for businesses. So it makes sense that it's fitting in with things now, but I suppose there's a lot that comes along with it. Gavin, do you have anything to add to that at all?
Thank you very much, Peter, for that very comprehensive point of it. I think what we've got to be aware of is the difference between carbon accounting and carbon assessment. Whereas carbon accounting solely refers to the processes of measuring the amount of greenhouse gases that a company is responsible for, where the carbon assessment is the evaluation of the numerical data of the greenhouse gases. And I think it's very important to understand the difference, because what we need to do is do the assessments and understand what the emissions are, so that we can then move forward. Because unless we've got a base, we can't then change things. So we always need to have a start point, and that's certainly the important part within accounting, is to give everybody a start point for them to be able to work towards it.
Yeah, so it's not just about performing these checks, but also allowing your clients to understand what these numbers mean and why it's important to them. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Numbers are a number is meaningless unless it has an understanding behind it.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm just gonna, sorry that I love that. I love that explanation. It's a really great starting point for us. And I feel like we could just sit here and talk all day, but I do have a few questions I want us to make sure we get through with you guys. In particular, I'm really keen to hear a little bit about your backgrounds. I'm going to go ahead and launch another poll for our audience just to kind of kick us off. How important is becoming sustainable to your practice? It's really easy to sit here and when we're listening to you guys say that this is really important to all of us and to the companies that we work for, but it's really different when you're putting it into practice and having to kind of make these active changes to becoming more sustainable. So be interesting to hear from our audience, and I'll go ahead and share these results afterwards. But how important is it to your practice? Is becoming more sustainable to your practice? Cool. So an interesting result that it says about half of you say very important, 38% somewhat important, and then 11% are saying it's not important to you. But I'm here with two guests who obviously find these things very important. But how did we get here? I would like to hear about your journey in becoming more sustainable and why it became so important to you. Because you've both got quite different backgrounds, which I find really interesting. And Gavin, I'll go to you first if you want to give us a little bit of background about yeah, what made you start this journey in becoming such a sustainability focused practice?
Well, in fact, if I take it back a little bit further, is that what took me down the digital route is that my children, I've got two young children, and they both went to school, and on the first day of school, they got an iPad, which then said in 2018, hang on here, we need to live in a different world that I was living in, and therefore digitalize my practice at that point in time. And then it followed on to go, hang on here, it's all well and good, give my children a good education and everything else, but if we don't have a planet for them to live on, or destroy the planet that they've got so that they can't do what they want to do in it, then what's the point? And therefore, all of a sudden, you then have a thought process and so forth, and see how your business is affecting it, and therefore start doing changes in your practice to and digitize takes you away from paper and stuff like that, and therefore all of a sudden you then go and buy a soda stream rather than having cans and plastic bottles and things like that in the office. And I think it's all well and good then going down that route, but then you've then got to realize that it's a wider thing, and therefore what we did is we then got a piece of land outside that, of which all of Team Beach go and help on, where we then went and planted 400 meters of hedgerowing. We've then done bird seed on the land. We've then planted wildflowers and things like that. So all of a sudden, from an area that didn't have any wildlife about at all of a sudden we've got some rare birds come flying through the land that's been spotted. We've then got more bees and insects and things like that all of a sudden on this piece of land. And then you see that a small impact make a big difference. And therefore when you get your team involved, and I think we can't change the world single-handedly, and therefore got the team involved. And I think when your team's involved with it, all of a sudden you then realize that at Beach Accountants, you then need to bring that sustainability in, more so into the workplace, but to tell your clients, because all of a sudden you realize that we're trusted advisors with a lot of influence, and therefore we can help make a bigger change than I think we realize, because if we're then going to help our clients get there and help them on the journey, and particularly if they're asked to do that because of the downward supply chain, then we need to be the people who can answer that question. And therefore, at Beach Accountants, that's what we've done. We've then readied ourselves and prepared ourselves. And as Peter said before, we're all going to do it in 5 or 10 years' time. Why are you waiting? Why are you waiting? Go before the curve, get to know more about it. Yes, okay, some of the learning can be hard at times, but I think when you see the changes that you make, all of a sudden you attract people who then just drive electric vans. You drive people who will do cycle deliveries rather than anything else. And all of a sudden you attract a new breed. And outside from here, and I do apologize, I talk a lot sometimes, but outside here, I then went and helped at Newcastle University, and on their entrepreneur course, there was 5 pools that they all had a project, and each one of them picked a sustainability project to set their business on. And I think when you realize that all of these people who are leaving university are in a mindset of sustainability, then if you don't start adapting your businesses towards that type of process, you're going to find it tougher. And in the short term, if you are in that space, it's going to see good growth in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can always be a bit scary to position yourself as an expert on a subject matter, and it can always be a bit kind of intimidating, especially when, I don't know, for accountants, so often it's tied into legislation and compliance and, really important things for small business owners who that might not be why they got into owning a business. So I understand that kind of that pain that comes along with it. Peter, what about you? What about your kind of journey into where you're at today? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay, starts 2008. I was working for Vodafone and I felt I had no purpose. And I was making, good money for myself, making profits for them. But, it was just kind of like a treadmill, counting commercial direction and so on. And I went to university and my big question is, why isn't society adapting and changing to climate change? Because I could see the scientists saying that we've got global warming, and you could see the predictions, and it all looked rather worrying for future generations. But, it's accelerated faster than what we were thinking in 2008. So I went to university, and then I had friends saying, Peter, you're a great commercial director, will you be my accountant? Hence my accountancy practice was born in 2008. And so that ran in parallel. And we actually rebranded as Triple Bottom Line Accounting in 2016, because I'd read about John Elkington. My name's Ellington, this other chap's called John Elkington. And he'd invented the phrase Triple Bottom Line Accounting: people, planet, prosperity. And that means that you run your business not just for the money, but you run it so that you have a positive effect on the people, i.e. customers and your team, and also a positive effect on the planet. So you try and leave the planet in a better state than when you arrived in it. So I was very lucky in that my wife is also very aware of sustainability. She was a school teacher and she was helping students, running assemblies and stuff and getting students aware of climate change and the issues that would affect them. But my wife left teaching and has joined us and is our sustainability director and HR director, bottle washer and cook. And so Fran, my wife, she runs net zero assessments, and we've been doing them for 4 years. We started off with a contract with Colby, which is the Colchester business development area. And she's done 100 presentations to them, and about 20 net zero assessments using these various tools, Trace, Auditel, Normative, Sage Earth, various tools, people that are in the Carbon Accounting Alliance. We both teach. So I've been teaching at the University of East Anglia. She now teaches on level 7 apprenticeships. She teaches sustainability officers. But since the pandemic at COVID, I think more and more people have been aware that there's something going on, and that society needs to change its approach to the environment. And with global warming and stuff, you can see we can actually physically see the effects coming through in weather and different things that are happening in the world. And so we've now grown 4 times since the pandemic. And a lot of that is, as Gavin said, if people are running regenerative farms or they're into sustainability in some way, they want to talk to people that understand the issues or see the issues like they see them, recognize the issues. And so we get a lot of inquiries than people that, I'm a heat engineer, I'm just moving into heat pumps. I need an accountant that understands what heat pumps are. I've just I'm setting up a regenerative farm. I need people that understand what fertilizers do to the soil, how they strip all the life out of them, and what regenerative soil is, and so on and so on. So one of our clients is made a film called 6 Inches of Soil, for example. So there's more, as Gavin said, there's more and more people getting into the space. And then of our traditional clients, which is about 4 in 10, that we're helping them transition their businesses so that they look at the risks of climate change and sustainability things, right? And the opportunities. So we've seized on the opportunity. We've grown 4 times. We've now got 14 people in the practice, and the growth is phenomenal. We've just had a company that employs 7,500 people that have asked us to help them with the valuation, with the social impact they have on society. And we're getting more and more people like that coming to us because of what we're doing and our reputation and the amount of carbon accounting assessments that Fran is now doing. And then that's filtering out within the team, so that all the 6 accountants here, they all have a knowledge of carbon accounting and can talk to clients. So that's
amazing. There's a big responsibility there to educate your staff, and I suppose not just become an echo chamber with the clients that you look after, but also inform and educate others as well. I can see someone in the chat just talking about they're learning to do carbon accounting. Yes, you're absolutely allowed to say who you're doing that with and what software you're using. We're all here to learn. And just to let you know, we are going to be talking a little bit about carbon accounting software in just a little bit. But just saw that comment come in. I just wanted to flag it really quickly so that I don't forget. So for both of you, first of all, thank you. I find both of your stories really interesting, just the different ways that you've come to be where you are, and the different things that triggered you to decide to go down this route. I think it's really inspiring. And I know that you've both spoken about dealing with this kind of new type of clients. Gavin, you mentioned those people who are maybe only doing bike deliveries, or like you say, people who are, running regenerative farms and things. So that's a clear benefit of going down the sustainability route as a kind of identifier for your practice. What are the other benefits for practices deciding to go down this kind of route? And Peter, we'll kick off with you if you're happy to go.
Well, for me, it's a sort of sense of purpose. It's the reason I get up in the morning, and I feel as though I'll be able to say that I've made an impact. We're trying to be a role model for what's possible, because if you go and ask most of your clients if they want to do a carbon assessment, they'll probably say, "What are you talking about?" But we're trying to show how it is possible and how an accountancy practice can do this and can be profitable and can grow significantly. Our growth is phenomenal, and it's profitable growth. So it gives us a sense of purpose. As I said, the growth is phenomenal, and we're getting more and more clients coming to us because we can talk the language that they want to talk, but also we can explain what carbon accounting is. We can explain their supply chains. We can look at the risks and opportunities. So it enables us to get into those advisory conversations with them, so that we can then do their budgeting and take into account, because you're only going to reduce your carbon and go to net zero if it's cost effective. You're only going to put solar panels on your roof if there was a business case for saving electricity compared to the cost of the solar panels, for example. So another reason for me, because I'm an academic, the practical experience of being part of an accountancy practice that's doing this work informs the work I'm doing is in academia, which is there's a payback there, so I can use it in my teaching. But what we've seen as well is our team has stabilized. 2 years ago, when everybody was suffering from the losing people, we lost people because we weren't sort of embedding the purpose, the culture of being a sustainable accountancy practices within the team. But for the last 18 months, we've really talked about this to the team. We've allowed them to go on courses. We've encouraged them to go on courses. And we haven't lost anybody for a year, which is, you know, given where we were a year and a half ago, that's a major achievement. And I think we're attracting good best talent because we're getting people that are aware of what's going on in the world. And so they're kind of like, they're not just, you know, I don't know, drinking lots of beer or going out and partying all the time. They're actually aware of some of the things that are going on. And so we're picking up clever people. We just recruited another 2. And I think it's
as well, when there's such a recruiting crisis in the accounting industry, actually having those values that you feel are really long-term able to work with is so important. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think that the customer base is stabilized as well, because what we're finding is, I mean, I've had people say, "Oh, at last I found you," you know, because they wanted to find an accountant that understood these issues. And once they found us, they then run away very quickly, because I think that the client base has started to realize that changing accountant is getting a bit like changing telecommunications provider and electricity provider. We're seeing a lot of people starting to shift and move. So stable customers, stable staff, and sense of purpose.
Nice one. I love that. And Gavin, what about you? What are the clear benefits that you see from being a sustainable practice?
Yep. I can only agree with Peter in that in terms of staffing, we'll have doubled our staff in 6 months. Purely through it, and as he says, is that the work's profitable, but there's not many people doing it. There's a big demand for things on carbon and sustainability because of you know, regulations at the top end coming through, affecting the big companies, and therefore filtering through the supply chain, and therefore all of a sudden Joe Bloggs, who has a small limited company, all of a sudden has to then adapt and change his processes, and we're the first phone call that they make, because ultimately, you know, they want, you know, they believe that we understand it, and therefore the calls will come in, and if you don't get it, then they have to go and find somebody who does. And that's certainly where we've seen a huge attraction of talent. And bizarrely, this year, more so than anything so far, in our first quarter, we'll have taken on more sustainability clients, I think probably in the first quarter, than we did last year as a whole. It's been a huge demand on that side, hence the growth we've got. But, you know, and therefore, you know, it's important to even get an understanding of it. Go and check out Ecology. That app adapts into FreeAgent, and therefore will give you a footholding of where to go, and give a report out to see where the you know, where that business is, or where your practice is, don't forget. And therefore to do that. And in sustainability, you've got to, you know, when I started out accounting, it was very traditional, had been traditional forever and a day, and was always a model that you always knew. When we all changed to digitalization, the world changed, and now we're on a complete steep curve of changing constantly. And therefore, if you don't start going down this line, then you can potentially miss out. And in sustainability, it's a world issue, and therefore, you know, accountants and bookkeepers should be out there saving the world.
Absolutely, I love that. Yeah, accountants and bookkeepers they're lifesavers. my dad recently said to me that when he was self-employed, he always thought the cost of his accountant is a lot less than the money he was saving. So it was always worthwhile. And I just think it's such an important message for small businesses. But however, so from both of you as well, what I really love to hear is that you're both in the same industry. You are technically competitors. And I always say this about the software world, that there's enough out there for everyone. And it sounds like you both really have that messaging, which I really love. Because I just think, yeah, there's a bigger issue to solve here than just running a business. But it's like you say, it's having that value and having that purpose that serves the world that's really important, which I really love to hear. So we've just touched on, I know you mentioned ecology. Peter, I know you're a big fan of trace, and we've got someone just asking about if FreeAgent is ever going to release a carbon accounting solution. It's always a tough one. I always feel like I'm like under pressure from to make some statements about FreeAgent here. Not that I know of. I can't see us building out a carbon accounting tool in FreeAgent, but NatWest do have a carbon planner, which you can check out. It's called NatWest Carbon Planner. But for both of you, I know that you have some carbon accounting solutions that you really like. So tell me about the tech tools that you can use to support you becoming a more sustainable practice. Gavin, you just mentioned ecology, so you can go ahead and kick us off.
Oh, no pressure then, eh?
Exactly.
Well, I think, and when you're saying, well, FreeAgent, I don't think it's about necessarily building your own, and therefore, it's about being able to do the integrations, and I think that's the important thing. So whilst you're there, that you can support it, and that's the important part. And I think the point with the reports and things that were coming through is you can monitor yourself on it as well. So I know in ecology, for example, you can then the amount of work you're doing, which will then give you a guide on if you've therefore technically planted 100 trees, then 250,000, whatever else, all the way up to the million. So you can always track your own business through using it as well. And I think that's an important thing for us to be able to do as a practice, is to sometimes even just for the team, I think it's important for them to have an understanding on the impact as a business that you've made, and therefore using the softwares and the reports is really important. But it's the conversations that you have with the client, and the conversations can open up several things. Sustainability being one, but then the whole point of what we're trying to do, and Peter mentioned that it's not about putting solar panels on if that's not cost effective. What we're trying to do is get efficient systems, and it's about seeing what we can do to do things to change, so that in reality, whilst we're helping the environment, we're making their businesses more profitable as well, because we're monitoring and looking at all of their expenses and how they do things. And let's face it, when it comes to client meetings, they were always face to face. Now they're rarely face to face. Events like this had to be face to face. Now we don't need to. We can all just join on here, and therefore think of the carbon impact that you're making even by just joining on here. But we then need to break down everything they do, and one of them we had was the number of emails that were being sent, but just randomly so they had they would do a mail search. But then if you're looking at the carbon impact on the total number of emails, and actually if they then targeted it, they were then having a less of an impact on the carbon output. And when I explained that to one of the clients that we had, they were really quite surprised, because they were just saying, oh, well, we're not sending a letter, so it's not paper, but you're still using power and everything else to it. So it's important to do that and explain it to the clients on how they can make a difference? What changes in their business by going through the report with them, telling them, always start with the areas that make bigger impact but cost the least. And sometimes that's putting a rota in so that people aren't always working from the office. They can sometimes work at home, so you've got different ways and means to do it.
Yeah.
And monitor it. I think the important thing is give them the start point and monitor it, and keep telling them the improvement that they're making, and report it somewhere, even if it's on your LinkedIn or Facebook. Tell people the impact you're making. The more that you tell, the more people will get involved.
Yeah, hold yourself accountable as well, doesn't it? So Peter, you've got a business that has kind of thrived really since COVID. You said grown and grown since COVID. And I know that you're a big user of tech. So tell us about some of the tech and the tools that you use as well to just to ensure that you're, I suppose, running a normal practice as well as being sustainability focused.
Okay, so half our clients are FreeAgent. We do use Xero and QuickBooks. When we talk to a new client that isn't on cloud accounting, we assess what they'd be most suitable for. And if they're a smallish practice and they want to do their own bookkeeping, then we will always tell them to go FreeAgent. But if they've said they've used Xero or QuickBooks before, then we'll say, you go for what you're used to. So we are, I went digital accounting show last week. I listened to the FreeAgent talk about tech stacks.
Shameless plug there for us.
It was good. And I was so surprised to hear that people have got cloud accounting, but they're not even linking up the bank feeds. And that, to me, it's kind of like, wow, because that's, if you're not even linking up the bank feed, what's going on? Because the way forward is about getting good bookkeeping. You've got good information, current information, so you can run your business and improve. So we do use our cloud accounting. We're using
use it properly.
Yeah. We use tools to take information out so we can do management accounting. Okay. But we're also trying to stay up to date with what's going on AI. Okay. Now, I use AI. I'm practice manager and do all the sales proposals, but also if I've got a tax query, I'll triangulate it. Okay. So I don't just go to ChatGPT and ask it a question, and because it hallucinates, you don't know. But you have to ask the right questions and intelligent questions. But I use ChatGPT, Claude 3, and Perplexity. And if I've got a problem that I'm not so sure about, I ask all three, and I then triangulate the answers, triangulate by checking against each one. But also, you should only ask ChatGPT and get or Claude or Perplexity to do something if you kind of got an indication of what the answers should be, because you can't necessarily trust them. But it's so efficient, and there's so many things going so quickly. We've just plugged Read, a thing called Read, READ, into our team meetings, and it gives you some of the meetings in a minute. So it's just phenomenal how this fastest stuff's going.
It's amazing how the tech industry is evolving to fit
email responses. It's just so, and it's just taking away so much work that enables us to get everything done so much faster. One of the things we're doing is, another plug for FreeAgent, is that we're not taking trial balances out, putting them into spreadsheets, doing an extended trial balance, putting them into tax calc or another machine and producing the accounts and then updating the cloud accounting. Where we can, we're staying all the way in FreeAgent, producing the CT600 and the statutory accounts, and even doing self-assessments in there. And we started doing that last year, and we're going to be doing it more and more, because it's 10 hours work becomes 4. It's amazing. And then that gives us time to go and talk to the clients about their carbon.
Which is way more interesting and fun, I'm sure, than talking about filing self-assessments and whatnot. I can tell that I've prepped you both really well, because you're bringing up every topic that I wanted to hit. It's like all my buzzwords are going. I actually, for anyone who's watching, I work in the enablement team, and we look after integrations here at FreeAgent. And something that we're seeing more and more of is the need to integrate tech products well in the market. I saw at DAS Lucy Cohen speaking about how plenty of accountants will have a tech that they implement and they are using like 1% of it well. And I suppose what I'm hearing from both of you is, and what I heard then as well, is that it's just not good enough. We need to be properly, there's lots of really cool, sexy products on the market, and it's easy to go, how can I make that fit my business? But actually it needs to solve a genuine problem. And then you need to implement it really properly, which is great to hear. Peter, you've given us a little bit of a lowdown on how you use AI, but Gavin, I'd love to hear if you're using any AI in your business at all.
I don't think any business out there isn't using AI, even if they know it or not. But it's a massive tool. But as Peter says, it can hallucinate, it can make it up because it's a crowd pleaser, and all it wants to do is give you an answer. But what we need to take into that is that, and yes, we use the AI in it. But the beauty of it is that if a client asks us a question, we will then give the client an answer. So if they then say, what type of electric car should I buy? You'll then go back to them and go, oh, these are the really efficient ones. Or what type of car? These are efficient because they're electric. And therefore you'll give them, oh yes, and you'll tell them the car that you think that they would like. So you'll go, oh, okay, a Jaguar I-Pace, whereas AI comes back and goes, oh, here's the six cars on the market that are most cost effective and therefore are all electric. And therefore the mindset is that we go back to tell the client what we think they want to hear, where actually it doesn't give the choice. We're not giving them the choices where AI does, and therefore we've got to work with it. We've got to check the data. Don't get me wrong. I think that's really important. But then what it's doing is it's giving multiple answers, and we need to adapt as accounting practices to not go, oh, here's what we think you want, but actually here's the range of the things that you could do and offer in it. But not only that, and it's about making things efficient. And you're right, Peter. It's horrific to hear that not that many people use bank feeds and uploading their invoices digitally and things like that. But also it's about using AI to use the brains of it to make things more efficient. And it'll help to, it'll go and check business growth or your sustainability path as well. So it'll analyze things as you're going along, and therefore the whole point is the human touch to the client, and therefore get AI to do all of the hard work, and you deliver it. Because at the moment, it doesn't have the ability to deliver it in the right format. I'm not saying that through time it won't adapt to that. But also, I think if you're going to use AI, particularly if you're going to use it within sustainability, try and tap it into regulations and things, just so that it doesn't become a crowd pleaser, and you end out giving wrong advice in it. And therefore, like you, we kind of try and use a couple of AI tools, one to compare it, but also to then give us a different angle than being replaced by ChatGPT, and making sure that we are involved in a human part in our firm.
Yeah, there is a nuance that that accountants and bookkeepers have that a computer will never have, and it's that kind of human interaction and that kind of advice that you can offer. So 100% agree that I don't think it's in a rush to take anyone's jobs, but there's no reason why you can't use it to leverage the relationship with your clients a little bit better.
It is clever though, in that it can answer conversations, because it'll then work through it, and therefore
that natural language effect.
Yeah, absolutely. So it might not replace us yet in that way, But what I think we need to do is rather than trying to be scared and hide from it, we need to start using it to our advantage and use it for the data that it's there for.
Yeah, nice. I'm going to pivot a little bit. I am slightly aware of time, but I think we're going to be okay. You're both very well behaved guests. You're not speaking over each other or anything like that. So which is lovely to see. But I'm going to pivot a little bit. And I would love to talk about B Corp status. So Peter, your triple bottom line accounting is a B Corp. I was speaking to someone about becoming a B Corp recently, just out of interest, and it sounds like a lengthy process. So if you could offer anyone a bit of advice who's looking to become a B Corp, either a business owner or maybe an accountant, what kind of advice would you be able to offer them when they're going through that process?
Okay. So B Corps is about stakeholder management, and it's the wider, we learn, the shareholder stakeholder is what most businesses have been about. But with B Corps, you look at workers, the wider community that you're based in, your customers, the environment as a stakeholder, and your governance. Okay, how you record these things, how you regulate yourself against those. And so you need, in order to get B Corp status, you have to show that you're treating your staff properly and that you're involving them in your business. For example, you have to show what you're doing in the local community. You have to show that you're talking to your clients, so you're sending them anonymous surveys and then acting on the information that they tell you about the things you're not getting right. Okay, you have to show that you're doing something about the environment. So doing a net zero assessment would be, a starting point. But then it's other things like your recycling, your waste disposal, your use of water, all those other things that are related to environmental usage. And then you've got to show your policies and procedures and how you're actually embedding this in everything that you do. Now, so you need to start about thinking about those 5 areas. And we started by looking at the economy for the common good. We also joined a thing called CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility A, which is an organization, and another one called the ORB, the Organization for Responsible Businesses. So that's one way of getting started, to look at your stakeholders and how you manage these things. Go onto the B Corp's websites and look to see what it's all about there. But it's a long process if you've not, you've got to start somewhere. So you start looking at these 5 areas and then start developing the evidence and then getting yourself into a position. It took us 2 years to get into a position to be able to make the application.
Yeah, it is a long process and worth it, I suppose, because that's something that's really important to you. But I hadn't realized it wasn't just about sustainability, but it was also about community and those kind of values, and how, like you say, how you're treating your staff. So yeah, great thing to do if it's manageable. Gavin, you're not a B Corp, so if you've got a business owner who's looking to kind of instill those sustainable and those community values at a core part of their business, what kind of advice would you offer them? How can they go about that?
Okay. Well, a couple of points in this is that, yes, you're right. We're not a B Corp as of yet. But what we then did was then go down the route of doing a qualification called Sustainability in Finance, which then covers areas such as climate risk and reporting for financial professionals, the Sustainable Development Goals, ESG performances, and stuff like that. And therefore, what we then did from there is that we then sponsored children out in Uganda, and therefore in there to allow them to get an education, and they're then brought into a community as such, so they get so they're there 5 days in the week and then they go home, and therefore get balanced meals, and education, and from that what we then do also is buy wooden products and things like that the parents make, so that it then gives a balanced thing to try and smooth out some of the ESGs, and therefore do beach cleanups and things like that. And that's how we then got involved in that side, and as you say, it then becomes a team, and try and make some things just a bit of fun to do that with. But you know, when I said before, when you start doing this, you get maybe addicted to it a little bit. Maybe that's maybe not the right word I should use, but your passion just expands. And you know, we've now started the journey on B Corp, purely because it fits with everything else that we do, but we have a basis to go from, and I think it's important to find a place to start to get yourself comfortable. And you know, B Corp always scared me a little bit, purely for time commitment, because the business is growing. You know, I've got 2 young children. We've got my wife's got her own businesses, and therefore we already have a lot going on, and therefore the commitment in time daunted me. But since we've gone through the other qualifications and done the other parts, you can see how all that gels and makes that transition to the B Corp route much easier. And I was always worried about the support behind it, but you automatically get support because they're keen for you to help you get there. And therefore, you know, whilst we aren't there, I think when you get into this journey, all of a sudden you find yourself on the route to be B Corp. But hopefully within 2 years we'll do that. Peter, my aim was a year, so I've just now given myself a lot of pressure. Either that or a lot of collaboration with you, Peter.
I think it's possible to do it quicker, and I'd be glad to help, because we're really happy to share our experience of it. But the big thing that we got it in September, and the big change that I can see, was you're getting larger clients coming to us because they know that it's a robust process, and so we wouldn't have got that large 7,500 employer to help ask us to do the ESG for them to help them measure the value, some of their S in their ESG, if we weren't B Corps. And we're seeing, you know, like £10 million turnover businesses coming to us because we've got that stamina. But they do say that you grow by 25% just through B Corps.
Really?
Because you attract the other companies that are in it, that are B Corps.
But I guess it's all about being prepared for that growth as well, isn't it? It's a big...
Yeah.
Amazing, guys. I'm just aware of time. I've just got a couple more kind of quick questions I would love to get from you. I know that for everyone who's watching, our demo will run over a little bit, but I would love it if you stick around for that. But there's no pressure. So I'm just going to run one quick poll just to give us a kind of kicking off point. So sustainable suppliers. So when you're exploring new suppliers for your practice, how important is to you that they are a sustainable supplier? And I guess the reason I'm asking is because I would love to hear a little bit from both of you. Like I say, I know we're quite tight for time, but a little bit from both of you about why it's important for clients to understand their carbon, like their carbon accounting position, and their liabilities as well. So we can see that for most people, they're saying that it's somewhat important, and only 31% say that it's very important. So yeah, Peter, I'll go to you first. Why is it so important for clients to understand their carbon accounting, and how can you help them to understand that a little bit more clearly?
Well, there's I'll give it 2 reasons. One is if you're concerned about the future and you've looked at any of the IPCC reports and predictions about what could happen with climate change, which is out of control. So we're currently looking at 1.5 or even 2 degrees warming, and it's quite catastrophic what could happen. But based on the commitments of governments, we could be up to 3.5 by the end of the century, and it does look like that could be really disastrous. So that's one reason. Current situation, though, is that it's going to be an essential measurement to be able to continue in business going forward. But it could be because you'll be expected by your supply chains to do your carbon accounting. So if that gives you an advantage now and it gives you a cost benefit or even more customers, why wouldn't you get into that now? Why wouldn't you be a first adopter and an early adopter and reap the benefits of that? Because there are benefits to be had.
Absolutely. Gavin, anything to add to that at all?
Yeah, I think the sustainability is making a big impact, and I certainly we've got a client who's involved in setting up regulations within the hospitality, and therefore as we kind of go and check the restaurant or the whatever else on their food ratings, all of a sudden we're going to start changing that into their carbon ratings. And they certainly have a process underway at the minute that where we're helping with, where they are then issuing out to hospitality places their carbon impact and rating them 1 to 5 in the same way. And therefore, it's really, really important for us to start getting into the mindset of helping clients achieve their goals. And as Peter says, there's money to be had, but if that's the only reason you're doing it for the wrong reasons, because we need to just look around it, and I certainly looked upon it on I want my children and their children and their children to have a future, and through our element of greed, our incompetency, we've got ourselves into the position we're in, and it's worth changing now, and at least be able to turn around to my children and go, this is what we did. This is what impact we did.
Yeah, we tried, or we did
Um,
our best. Yeah.
And certainly one thing that we do, and I'm going slightly off piste on this, is that we've also had some school children come to our piece of land to help us with some of the stuff. And therefore, what we then had said to them is that when they grow up, we want them to come back and show their children the work that they did on sustainability.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm aware we're just over time, guys. So I'm just going to ask you one final question, which is, if you can just share one top tip, just a sentence or two for accountants and bookkeepers who are starting on this journey towards becoming a sustainability focused practice, what would that top tip be? And Gavin, I'll go to you first if you don't mind.
Okay. I'd say see sustainability as a passion and something that's going to help change the future. But don't forget that it is a chargeable service, and therefore, us accountants, we have an issue of giving everything away for free too easily. And at least go and check the integrations within FreeAgent into ways you can do that, such as ecology.
Okay.
Sorry, ecology.
Accountants have the tools. We have the tools. We have the mindsets. We have the tools to do this. And you start by starting. You just read up on some of this stuff. As soon as you started, things will start snowballing. One way of starting is to do the 3-hour course that Trace run. Trace run a 3-hour course over 3 weeks, 1 hour every Wednesday lunchtime, and it's excellent. It teaches you about carbon accounting, how to do it, and the tools and how it all works. Okay, and then if you want to go further, ICAEW, ACCA, both have sustainability certificates that take about 30 hours each. But that's if you do that, you walk away with a comprehensive knowledge base about this area. So
Yeah.
Start by starting, do something, read up,
I can see that there's people in the chat box saying that this session has been a breath of fresh air. Honestly, for me, I actually haven't hosted a few webinars in a while, and it's been really lovely to speak to you both. Hearing about your journey is really interesting. It's very inspiring. It definitely makes me want to go out there and change the world. So thank you both so much for being on today. For everyone who's watching, Gavin and Peter are two of our FreeAgent partners. And if you want to become a FreeAgent partner, then you absolutely can do if you are an accountant or bookkeeper. I'm going to go ahead and go into a demo shortly Gavin and Peter, thank you so much for being on. You do not have to stick around for the demo. You both know what FreeAgent looks like. For anyone who would like some more information on how to become a FreeAgent partner, there's a poll running now. But thank you both so much. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon. So guys, like I say, that poll's running just now about whether you'd like any more information on becoming a FreeAgent partner. Also just going to share my screen very quick. We have an online community for accountants and bookkeepers who are partners of ours. It would be amazing if some of you want to join it. So if you are already a partner of ours and you're thinking, I don't necessarily need to hear about from my account manager this time round, you can go ahead and scan this QR code and you can join our FreeAgent community. Yeah, it's run by our friends at ProNation. So Lucy Cohen, who I mentioned earlier, Will Farnell and Martin Bissett. It is intentionally not got a lot of FreeAgent staff members on it because we really want to encourage discussion, and if anyone wants to go on and get involved in the conversation, then that is the place to do so. So that's our FreeAgent community on Facebook. I'm just going to exit out of this now and I'm going to go ahead and do us a little demo. So if you would like to stay for the demo, please do. Love it when people stay for the demo. If you would not like to stay for the demo, that is absolutely fine. You can go ahead and enjoy the rest of your afternoon, but I'm just going to give us a quick overview of what FreeAgent looks like for anyone who might not have seen it before. I can see we've had a couple of questions about offering discounts to B Corps. We as FreeAgent don't currently offer discounts to B Corps that I know of, and maybe it's something we'll do in the future. And in terms of tools that integrate with FreeAgent, we actually don't have any carbon accounting tools that we currently integrate with, but it is on our list. So if you are already a FreeAgent partner and you would love us to be able to integrate with your carbon accounting solution of choice, please hit up your account manager and let them know. They will feed it back to me and then I will do my best to get that on our roadmap for us. So anyway, going into our demo, this is our practice dashboard. If you're an accountant or bookkeeper who already works with FreeAgent, you'll recognize this. This is where you live for all of your client management. And you can see I've got a list of my clients here. And up at the top, we've got this link here, which takes us to our practice portal. And that is where we keep all of our partner resources, as well as any learning and accreditation modules that we have. So I'm about to switch into my FreeAgent license. I will warn you, I am not the best at keeping my demo account up to date, so it looks like my business is having a bit of a sad start to the year, but this is really just to give you a flavor of what our product looks like. Super easy to use. We have this blue bar at the top that lets you know you're into the client's account, and we can do everything from here. Almost all of this is available from our mobile app as well. So if I go to add new, I can do invoices, expenses, all that kind of thing. If we go to our invoicing tool here, you can see all of my invoices that can be sent directly from FreeAgent and can then be paid by the clients. We do have our payroll in here. This is at no extra cost to you or your practice. The only add-ons that we have that are chargeable are our smart capture data capture tool. So you're not paying any more for payroll or anything like that at all. And if I switch into our bank account, I'm just going to give you a little overview of it. This is where we expect most clients to live for most of the time in FreeAgent. So we can bulk explain bank transactions just by clicking these down here. But we also, speaking of AI, we do have an AI tool called Guess, which will automatically categorize your bank transactions, and it does it with an extremely high accuracy rate, in particular compared to our competitors, which we love to see. What we see is that the more time your client spends in FreeAgent, then the less time you as the accountant or bookkeeper need to spend in FreeAgent, which is always brilliant. You did not become an accountant to spend all of your days inside bookkeeping software. So yeah, we love to see that. We're a really easy to use software. And then I'm just going to go along to taxes, and we can see that we can do all of our submissions directly from FreeAgent for self-assessments as well as VAT. Appreciate this is a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I'm just aware that we've gone over time a little bit. So I'm going to launch one more poll just to see if anyone would like to take this very last chance to find out more about becoming a FreeAgent partner. if you would like to go ahead and vote on that, that'd be brilliant. And then I will leave all of you to have the rest of your day, but hopefully everyone found that webinar as inspiring and interesting as I found it, and certainly gives us a lot to go ahead and be thinking about in terms of sustainability in the future. Thank you so much. Thanks so much to my colleagues who have been great behind the scenes today, and we will see you all at the next webinar. Cheers.